Wow.
Yes, good morning, all of you. You can scan this QR code for the attendance. Okay, I think let's start. We waited. We already waited for 5 minutes to others to join. Okay, so we are discussing about what are the attributes of visual programming. On that, yesterday we are discussing about what are the control structure that we are having in visual programming. So basically, in the control structure, we are having a control statements and control loops. Okay, so which we are discussed. So in case of control structure, we are having if then. Okay, where only one statement is performed, only one action is performed based on the condition. Then we have learned something about if else then statement. So where we can perform the two actions based on the condition. One is your then part, second one is your else part. Then we look after something called multiple equal statement, which is also called nested if all statement. Okay, nested if then statement. So whenever we need to implement multiple statements, so we are using that multiple if then else statement. Then the alternate way of writing the if then else statement is your select case statement, where we will select based on the expression output. The different case values are there. So depending upon this case value, the action is performed. Okay, so this is something about if. Then we are seeing some of the looping structure. Okay, looping structure. So basically, we are having three types of loops in our uh, visual programming. One is your uh, do while loop. Okay, so in case of do while loop, again there is three category. One is simple do while loop. The second one is do do loop. One is do loop. Second is do while loop, and third one is do until loop. Fine. So there are different categories we are used. Okay, so we are already discussed with the example. Okay, then we are what do until loop will be do. It is something opposite to the do while loop. Okay, or do loop. In this, we will check for the falsy condition. If the condition is false, then we will be going to execute the statement. then we will discuss some of the for next step. Okay. So today we will going to discuss two more loops, which is called your exist loop and uh, while went loop. So sometimes what the exist loop will be do, sometimes we require to come out of loop without executing this entire code. Okay, कभी कभी क्या होता है हम लोग को for any reason or any situation, so we have to, so as we know the loop is nothing but repetition execution of set of statement until the condition is true. Okay, but sometime in a program, suppose after this instruction I j, okay, so even though condition is true, even though the condition of the program, whatever the condition we have given for the program is true, so we need to come out of it. Forcefully we need to come out of it. So in that cases, we will use the exist statement, or we will use the exist looping for that. And second thing you have to remember, in case of exist loop, you can use multiple exist loop in this case. Multiple exist statement can be placed in your exist loop. Okay, so let's understand the simple definition. So exist loop is a statement, or exist statement allow you to exist directly from the any of the loop. It can be work for either for loop as well as for the do loop. So in both the loops we can use the exist statement. Okay, exist statement to come out of the loop. Now exist this so the exist statement appear as many times as needed in a loop. So we can use, so this statement exist statement can be used as many as time you require in the loop, and the exist do can appear as many as time needed in do loop. Which means now there is no restriction of using. Okay, there is no such restriction of using your exist statement. Okay, to come out of it. So we can use any number of times this statement. Okay, so let us understand with the help of the example what we do. Now this is syntax for the for loop. So as we know, for loop start with a for keyword. Now there is a counter, a variable name. So it will start and end values. So it will have a start and end value and the incremented time. Fine. Then we have the statement, set of statement that will be executed with whenever the for loop is true. Now here you can see we are using the exist for. Okay. Okay. Now what will you exist for? Now if this condition is true, okay, now exist for loop can be used to come out of it. The condition is true. We will simply come out of this loop. Now if the condition is false, now we will simply execute. Similarly, in case of do while loop or do loop, we can use now again the statement do while condition is a condition statement. Okay, then this is the action part which is performed. Now you can see there will be exist do. Okay, now exist do, what will we do if the condition is true? Okay, for if the condition is true, if you want to forcefully come out of this loop, you can come out of it. Otherwise, you can continue the loop as usual. Okay, so you have to remember the exist loop or the exist statement when we are using in any looping condition. It is basically allows an user to exist directly from the loop. Okay, so we can directly exist from the loop even though the condition is true. Fine. Similarly, it can be used for both. It can be used for your for loop के लिए भी यूज कर सकते हैं और आपका while loop के लिए और do loop के लिए भी यूज कर सकते हैं. Fine. So next is the last loop condition, which is called while when loop. Okay, this is the loop which we are using Visual Basic. Okay, while when loop. So so while when statement behaves exactly like your do while loop. Okay, so but it is slight difference in case of the syntax. Okay, so whatever you do while loop is going to perform, what action that do while loop is going to perform, that means the condition is checked. Okay, in case of, so first you have to check the condition. So once you check the condition, now you have to execute a statement. then there we have to end with the do while. But in the case here, now you can see the syntax here. Syntax will be something while condition. Okay, while is now a keyword. Then we are having the condition part. Okay, then if the condition is true, then I will execute the set of statements. Fine, set of statement is executed. Once these statements are executed, now I will end with the while statement. While means and statement. Fine. Now, if let's take an example. So, suppose same example I'm taking. So, which I have taken the previously. Now, I have to count the number from 1 to 10. So, now what this step is going to do? This is going to declare an integer. Okay. Now, number is a variable. Number is a variable of which type? Now, it is an integer type. Fine. Integer type. So, how we declare it? The declaring keyword is dim. Dim keyword is basically used to what? Declare a variable. Fine. Dim number as an integer. Now I'm initializing the number to 1. So initial number I'm storing equal to 1. Now I'm checking the while condition here. Now you can see we are checking the while condition. While number is less than equal to 1. So less than equal to 100. Okay. So what's the number? 100 says छोटा है. The 100 से equal है. So what we have to do? Now I have to increment the number by number plus 1. Right? Now there will be while condition. Okay. So it is similar to what action that is performing do while do. Okay. So what do while loop will look like? So I will write for while. Okay. Then we will check the condition. Then we have the action part. Okay. Now it will end up with the do statement. But in the case in this while do method, instead of writing the do statement, we will basically write the while statement. Okay. And so these are the some looping structure that we are using in case of visual programming. Right. So basically, we will go to most of the time we will use the for loop first for next statement, and sometimes we will going to use the do while loop. Uh, let's go on. I think any doubt? Okay, once we complete this things, okay, now one more part function is there. Now we will do some of the examples that will be clear how we are using this program terminology to write the program. How we can implement the program. Okay. The next part or the next section that we are going to discuss is Visual Basic function. So as we are already aware of, the function is within any programming language, the function has a very important role. Okay. So very important role with respect to your what? With respect to your program because it will reduce the time of writing the program as well as it will increase the efficiency of the program. Okay, how it is increased? Because the once we define a function, the function can be reusable. Okay, it can be reusable again and again. Okay, second benefit is once I write the program in functional basis or procedural basis, so it is very clear to understand. Right. So these are some advantages of using functions. So like other any programming language, okay, or like other any high-level language, Visual Basic is also supporting functions or procedures. Okay. Now, as we know, there are two different types of function. Generally, there are two different types of function. One is called system function or library function, and second one is called your user function. So, Visual Basic support lots of library function. As we are already discussed, okay, if you remember, so we discussed something about Microsoft Foundation classes. Okay, so when Microsoft Foundation classes, MFC basically are used for Windows programming development, and It is stored in a Windows API or designing the Windows API. So this is nothing but a predefined classes. MFC are predefined classes for designing Windows programming. Okay, the Windows programming यूज करते हैं हम लोग वो डिस्कस किया. ठीक है, तो यहाँ पर भी विजुअल बेसिक में भी आपको बहुत सारे लाइब्रेरी क्लासेस प्रोवाइड करता है, which is also called DLL functions, dynamic linking library functions, which these functions are linked at the time of runtime. Fine. So we are also discuss about something about DDL, dynamic linking library, how to library files are linked. Okay. So let us understand some of the functions, predefined function or built-in function that are available with the Visual Basics. Fine. Then we will discuss what are the user-defined function. What are different types of user-defined function can be possible. Fine. So these are the some. In this slide, you can see these are some mathematical, numerical functions, built-in function that is available with the Visual Basics. Okay. Now these functions can be one. This is first function is called rand function. So basically, it creates random numbers from the number between the numbers 0 and 1. Okay. So whenever you require a random set of any random numbers, so we can call this function. So it will create a random numbers between 0 and 1. Then this is absolute ABS of x. So it will always return the absolute value of x. Okay. Or the mod of x. Now, if you want to find the square root, now you can do SQR of x. Now for sign. Okay. For SING, for sign of variable x. Now for the log of x. Okay. Value of the log of x, you can use log x. Now there is some trigonometric function. Then now this is something different, which is with int of x. It will this function will always return the integer part of the x. Suppose I'm having something 17.5875. When I will take int of this one, so it will always going to return me an integer part which is 17. Then we are having ant of x. Now ant of x is nothing but it is the angle, you can say, or radian of an x. Okay, or angle value of an x. So it is nothing but it will always give the tan of 1 minus x, which will be always angle. So these are some mathematical functions which you have built in your Visual Basic. Okay, we already आपका Visual Basic में है. Similarly, some of the functions with the string variables. Okay, कुछ functions आपके इस mathematical operation के लिए यूज होते हैं. Similarly, some functions आपके string variable के लिए भी यूज होते हैं. So the functions like length of x, so length of len of x, so it will give the number of character of the variable, or we can say number of character of string variables. Then in case you already know, we convert the changes to the all the letters to the uppercase or the capital letters. Then L case will changes to the small letter. Then left of XL, so it will what will do, take a character L, or we can say take L as a character from the left. So it will search for a character, okay, in a string X. So what will happen? So suppose I'm having a string X, so it will go to search for a character letter L from the left side. So it will start from here and search for the character letter L. Similarly, y of this, right of this will be search for the character letter L from the right hand side. Okay. Then mid of x SL, so takes only the character between the S and L. So what happens if X is there? So whatever the character that present in between the X and L, okay, that characters are displayed. There are some string function that is available, or built-in function available with the Visual Basic. Okay. So yeah. So now the important part, how to define the user procedure or user function, and what are the different user function or user procedures are available. Fine. So user built-in function, the whatever we discuss Now we are discussing the building function. Now building function is very easy because it is already defined. Okay, it is already defined by the system. So to use this building function, we just need to call this function. But what happens if the user wants to create a procedure or create a function? Okay, so we will discuss one by one that there are different types of function we are having here. Okay, so we will discuss what are types of function and how these functions can be used. Fine. Now, as we know, the Visual Basic offer different types of procedure to execute a small section of coding in application. Okay, so what happens? So entire application, as we know, Visual Basic is basically supporting to the modular approach. Fine. Visual Basic का हम लोग का modular approach को support कर रहा था. अगर वो modular approach को support करते हैं, that means it should be writing the set of code in a programming way. So Visual Basic also what it offers? It offers the different types of procedures. Okay, so we will use the different types of procedures to execute a small section of code in an application. So whatever codes are there that are divided into different types of procedures. The second point you have to remember about the Visual Basic programming. The Visual Basic program can be broken into small logical components called procedure. Okay. Now what happens? So instead of designing the entire module into one procedure, so what we will do? We will so the entire program of visual programming can be broken into small logical components. Okay, or we can say small modules, and these individual modules are called procedures. Okay. Then the procedures are useful for considering repeated operations such as frequency use calculation, text, and control manipulation. So what this procedure is basically helpful, or what this procedure basically do. So it will be repeatedly perform the operations. Okay, certain set of operations are repeatedly performed. Okay, so for such as the frequency used for the calculation, suppose you want to number of times you need to calculate the same thing. Okay, or for the text, like giving the input for the text something sometimes, or manipulating the control statement. Sometimes you need to manipulate the control statement. So in this cases, all these cases, we will use the procedure methods. Okay. Then what are the benefits of using the procedure in a programming are? So this is the first benefit. It is easier to debug a program. Okay, it is easier to debug a program with the procedures which breaks the program into the distinct logical units. So what happens? So for the compilation or checking whether identifying the error in the case of procedure-oriented program is much easier. Okay, as we are divided the program into different logical units or logical units, it can be easily identify the errors. Second thing is the procedure uses in one program can act as a building block for the other program with a slight modification. Now this is an important point. What actually is saying? Suppose you design a procedure P1, any procedure for P1 for an application A. Now the same procedure can be used. Now I can use the same procedure. Now the same procedure can be used with a slight modification. Now I can modify this procedure, or I can make some changes in this procedure based on the requirement of B. Okay, so what happened? So now whenever I need to use this procedure in a B, so we will not going to write the entire code. So whatever the modification is needed, whatever the modification is needed, so I simply just modify it. Right. So whatever modification is needed, I will just modify the program or procedure and we can reuse it. So that means the reusability of the procedures can be performed. Okay, that is the important benefit of using that one. Okay, procedure is used in one program can act as a building block for other program with a slight modification. With changes, slight changes by slightly changing in your program, we can reuse that program, or we can that can be used as a building block for any other application. Okay, now, so what are different types of procedure we are having here? Now, first one is your sub procedure, which is basically used many of or basic the sub procedure. Mainly we are going to use the sub procedure. There are other types of procedure also there that we are rarely going to get. The first procedure is called a sub procedure. Okay, so whenever writing program, so we are basically used with the sub procedures only. Okay, so what the sub procedure means that now sub procedures can be placed. Now it can be, so as you maybe remember we have discussed the different types of module. So basically form modules are smaller individual code. Then we have discussed standard module. If the forms are integrated together, okay, अगर एक से ज़्यादा फॉर्म को अगर ग्रुप टुगेदर करते हैं, अगर एप्लीकेशन के रिक्वायरमेंट के हिसाब से, तो हम लोग उसको बोलते हैं स्टैंडर्ड मॉड्यूल. देन एक और आपका था क्लास मॉड्यूल. ओके, क्लास मॉड्यूल क्या था, जहाँ पर हम लोगों ने हाई लेवल लैंग्वेज का कॉन्सेप्ट यूज किए थे, उसको क्लास मॉड्यूल बोलते हैं. नाउ द सब प्रोसीजर्स can be placed. Now you can place your sub procedure in any of the module. Okay, or in general we can say what whatever module we are discussed in earlier classes, all these modules are basically built up of procedures only or sub procedure only. That is the reason we can use these sub procedures on any of the module, either in a standard module or in a class module or in a form module. And each time the procedure is called, the statement between sub and are executed. Now you have to remember that whenever you writing a sub procedure, so we are using a keyword called sub, okay, and there is another keyword called subhead. So whenever you call this procedure, okay, whenever we execute this procedure, what happens? The set of statements, the set of instructions just placed in between these two statements are going to perform. Or what action should be performed? The action will be the statement that are in between these two words, which is sub and sub के बीच में. ठीक है, जो भी statement रहते हैं उसको execute करते हैं. And sub procedure can be placed in any of the module. Okay, so let us try to understand with the example how this sub procedure is created. Now this is a syntax for a sub procedure. Now first of all, it may be a private or public, depend upon the accessibility, who is going to access this procedure. Okay, so either we can place as a private or public. If you are going to place as public, then it can be used for anyone. That means any application can be used. Okay, and if it is a if it is a private, now the sub procedure are mainly specified for a particular application. So you can give either public or private. So by default it is private. Okay, if we are not going to mention any of this accessibility, okay, then by default it will be private. Then static. Okay, now all these sub procedures are static in nature. Okay, then we are having a sub, which is keyword for the defined sub procedure. Now we will have a sub procedure name. Fine, name of the sub procedure. Then a list of argument. Okay, list of argument that the procedure is going to take. Okay, now list of argument can be 1 to n argument. We can take, or we can do 0 to n argument. It can be 0 argument, it can be 1 argument, it can be 2 argument, 3 argument. So depend upon number of input. Fine. Now there will be, after writing this declaration part of procedure, there will be a statement. That means what the procedure in case of statement. Okay, statement में क्या करना है आपको? In a statement, basically we define what the procedure is actually is going to perform. Right. So in case of procedure, what we are doing? So we are basically checking what our procedure is actually going to perform. or what action should be performed by this procedure. Then we are having a statement called and sub. Okay, and sub is if it's necessary to mandatory to write the and sub here. If you forget to write and sub, it will show an error message. Okay, every procedure should be ended with and sub. So, and second thing, whatever the statement is in between sub and sub, that all will be going to execute. Fine. So this is a syntax of writing a sub procedure. How to write a sub procedure. Even your main function, okay. Even your main function, whenever you write the main function, that also uses started with a sub. Now we like sub main, okay, sub main, and this after that there will be a statement. Then it will be ended with the and sub. Fine. This thing what to remember. Whatever in between the sub and sub are going to execute, even if the main function is also having started with sub. And so let us understand with the examples. And this is a syntax. Remember this syntax because very soon we are going to use this one for writing a program. Okay, so next is your event procedure. Okay, event procedure. So what is event procedure? Basically, these are the procedure which is designed to, which is basically used for designing an event. Okay, or as we know, the Visual Basic is event program. So we have to perform certain event. So whenever a user click an event, now event handler will be activated. Now that event handler is nothing but it will provide a solution to the event. That means nothing but it's a procedure. Event handler जो बोलते हैं हम लोग तो क्या होता है कुछ भी अगर यूजर इवेंट परफॉर्म करता है सपोज क्लिकिंग ऑफ माउस ओके or entering some input data. Okay, so these are the events. So if the event is performed, now you have to activate event handler. That means you that वो event को अगर reset किए हैं, then वो event क्या काम करेगा उसको करना है. ठीक है. Now what event handler will do? It will run a procedure. So you need to define a procedure for a particular event. Okay, so which is done with the help of event procedure. That means we can say the procedure which is defined for event handler are known as event procedure. Okay, now the event procedure is a procedure block that contains a control actually. So basically what is control? It contains the control or we can say the event handler भी बोलते हैं. Now it consists of event handler or set of code that will execute for the event. So how it is written? It will return as a name. Then we will always use the underscore and the event name. So what happens? So if you name it like this, it is easily to identify that particular procedure are meant for which event. Okay, वो जो procedure किस event के लिए वो बनाता. Now let us understand the syntax. The syntax of the event procedure is very simple. Okay, now we are writing a syntax for the event procedure from form load event. Now this is a form load. ठीक है, form load है आपको load करना है तो उसके लिए event लिखना है. Now first we have to write the access specifier. Now here access specifier should be private. Okay, what is private? Now because it is designed for a particular event. Okay, that is the reason we are writing here private. We cannot write public. If it is public, it can be accessible by any other application, but it cannot be going to useful. That is the reason we will always write private. Okay, then there is a keyword called sub. Now name should be very specific. How can we write the name? Now name will be name of the procedure, then underscore, then event. What event you are performing? Then statement block, as we have seen in case of sub procedures. Sub procedure का जो आपका statement block था, यहाँ पर भी आपका simple statement block रहेगा. Then every sub will be ended with the and sub. Okay. So there is not much difference between your sub procedure and event procedure. So basic definition is sub procedure are general purpose or commonly used procedures, okay, where the access specifier can be public or private. Okay, but in case of event procedure, they are this procedure are specifically designed for particular events. Okay, specifically designed for particular events. Now the access specifier of this event always will be private. Okay, always will be private, and rest of the thing are same. Uh, rest of the thing is same. That means in between the sub and end sum, you have to execute the set of blocks. Okay, now you can see as already said, event procedure requires a declaration as a private by default. By default, it will be private. Fine. So, any doubts till now? What we have discussed? Yes. Any doubt? Okay. So, if there is no doubt, so I will move on. So, as all of you already know, that we have having two classes today. So, the time is less than 2 minutes. So, once it is ended, so do rejoin the second link which I have already shared with you. Okay. So, the time खत्म हो जाता है तो आप इसमें ज्वाइन करना है. Okay. Now there are two more procedures basically we are having. One is your yeah. One is your general procedure and second one is your functional procedure is also there. Okay, एक general procedure है, एक आपका functional procedure है. Now, but basically mainly we will going to use these two procedures. One is sub procedure for writing the programming part, and second one is event procedure while writing the procedure for the event part. Okay. Okay, now general procedure. General procedures is declared when several event procedures perform the same action. So when we are going to use the general procedure, if if there are number of event procedures are there which are performing the same action, then in that case we can group this procedure together and we can say these are the general purpose procedure. Or these procedures are basically used for general purpose. And it is a good programming practice to write a common statement in a separate procedure, that is general procedure, and call them an event procedure. So what actually saying? So for the programming point of view, the programmer has it is developed for the good programming practice. Okay, to write this all this common set of event procedures. Okay, so we will write them in a common platform. Okay, common platform which is called uh, general procedure, and we can name that as that these are all event procedures. Or basically we can say general procedures are nothing but similar. We will group the similar types of event procedures, and we can say this different types of event procedures are your general procedures. Fine. Okay, so as the time is ended, you can join in the next link.